Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Men, starring Jesse Buckley and Rory Kinnear, directed by Alex Garland. Now, before I get into this movie, I saw this in movie theaters twice, and is it regrettable to watch? Let's figure that out. The movie opens with Harper, played by Jesse Buckley, as she witnesses her husband James' suicide by jumping out of the balcony, as it'll be explained why later in the film, and we move on to Harper driving to a house in the middle of nowhere where she rents from Jeffrey, played by Rory Kinnear. And when Jeffrey first shows up, I immediately knew he was fucking creepy, particularly since in the trailer, Harper takes an apple from the tree and he jokes about not grabbing the apple as it's a forbidden fruit, which was super obvious from the trailer and in the first 6 minutes of the movie, as he shows her a tour of the house, and his smile is absolutely creepy as shit, which is obviously predictable, and I didn't expect predictable from A24, honestly. Harper is on FaceTime with her sister, Riley, and she said he brought up James, and I knew there was baggage that needed to be explained later in the movie, as it didn't fool me at all. And afterhand, we get a flashback of Harper arguing about Harper wanting a divorce from James as he threatens to kill himself as he's pleading from, and the acting in that scene was a little too dramatic. But other than those scenes, the acting is fine at best. While Harper has baggage that needs to be explained, and Jeffrey comes off so fucking creepy, as it was told in the trailers. And Harper goes for a walk in the forest leading up to a tunnel, and she makes music from her voice, which is also in the trailers, until she happens to see someone that's shaped like a man who will come after her a few times in nudity throughout the movie, which was very fucking disturbing. And the shots in the forest are good, but and director Alex Garland can shoot beautiful shots, but here he did, but at the same time he's so goddamn disturbing. Harper runs away from the man as she hears him coming, but comes across the tunnel that is brickled. For what reason? It's never explained. Harper goes by a couple of abandoned buildings and walks away from it as she takes a photo of the pretty forest, and she makes a photo and she sees a man in nudity, and I thought, what the fuck is that? And I thought to myself, this motherfucker naked? And we'll see that later on. Yep, he's naked. And honestly, between that scene and seeing how James got killed, this movie is becoming unfulfilling, and I'm just about 30 minutes into the movie. The next day, Harper practices the piano. As it was said earlier in dialogue, she can't play the piano, as she's playing a song I know of thanks to another movie called The Pianist with Adrian Brody, where he won the Oscar, which at some point I need to revisit. And she's playing it okay, but not the same way Adrian Brody played in that movie. And she's doing some work as the naked man is at her house, and she's not paying too close fucking attention until she eventually sees him at the apple tree while on FaceTime session with Riley. And the whole time I thought, just turn the fuck around. And she calls the police, and the naked man scares her by almost breaking in, as the scene bothered me so goddamn badly. We get another flashback of Harper and James as she's scared of James as he hits her, as it will proceed later in the film. The police come by and arrest the naked man and file the report, and Riley wants to come out after the scary situation, and Harper says no and walks to a church and sees a stone of some old and creepy looking statues, and she sits in the church and thinks about how she forced James out of their apartment, and that's how he committed suicide while he was trying to get in from the upstairs apartment, or flat as they call it in England, which is, I think, where this was being filmed. Meanwhile, she does say London a couple of times. She screams and sits in the church for a while, and sees a teenage boy named Samuel, as he wants to play hide and seek, and she says no until a priest asks her if she's in pain, and the priest sits and talks with her and making her uncomfortable, and she tells him to fuck off. And the problem I'm having is I'm not really believing how she explains what happened to James, as we see it on the screen. And I didn't want it repeated to me, as it was a little repetitive. We get to nighttime, and Harper goes into a bar to have a drink, and Jeffrey is there, and so is the cop that arrested the naked man from the day before, and Harper learns the naked man was let go, and she runs home afraid while the naked man stalks her again. And as she gets home and wants to get the fuck out of there and FaceTimes Riley, and she'll be there in the next 4 hours, or at the end of the movie, I'll spoil that part. Harper agrees to it, and this is the point when this movie gets way too fucking weird in an unfulfilling way. Here comes in the next segment. The lights go on and off, and the cop happens to be there as she goes outside, and I thought, as soon as the cop disappears, I thought, motherfucker, get back in the house! And a man charges at her, and as this is really fucking random, Harper grabs a knife and a chair goes through the window by throwing a chair, and Jeffrey knocks at the door, and she tries to use a knife as a weapon, and Jeffrey comes in, and because he heard screaming and the window breaking, and sees a crow, and as it had a broken wing, and until he kills it by snapping its neck, and he goes outside to scare the intruder away, and the naked man shows up and blows something like a dandelion at Harper. Not only did I ask, what the fuck, but this score in this scene was, as well as this whole movie, was very distracting. The naked man gives Harper his hand, and she grabs it, and he strangles her until she stabs it through the mail door, and his hand is split into two, and I thought, what the fuck is this? I don't think this movie knows what it's about. Samuel comes in the house with his lady-looking mask. Harper comes at him with a knife, as she doesn't believe she'll cut Samuel again, as she doesn't, and she closes the door and counts to 10 as she plays hide and seek, and another man that happens to be the priest barges in through the door, as Samuel gave birth to the priest off screen, which is the impression I got, and he asks, what age did she lose her virginity? As I'm thinking, motherfucker, this ain't none of your motherfucking business, which is what I would say if someone asked me that. As he monologues, and Harper gets the knife closer as she cuts him, getting his hands on her as he tries to rape her, and good for Harper to knife the raper, which is a move I would make if anyone raped a woman. Like that, as she runs out of the car, or to the car, I'll say, and hits Jeffrey, but doesn't kill him, and he drags her out of the car. And I thought he was stealing the car, but he actually was going to try to run her over like she did to him. As I see the stars, and I'm thinking that's the only great shot in this whole movie, and bumps the car on some bricks and damages the car. And the problem I'm having is, how is she going to get out of there, which was bugging me this entire rest of the movie. The naked man approaches Harper and comes towards with her an injured leg, like James had at his death. And this is the weirdest, most repetitive moment in this whole movie. The naked man gives birth to a boy, as he gives another birth to a man, whom I'm thinking is the priest, and he gives birth to Jeffrey. And I thought, enough with the birth giving already, as it was disturbing and grossing me out, as he gives more than one birth out to James. And as he walks into the room, he tells Harper he wants her love, and the next day comes, Riley shows up and sees Harper. I couldn't tell you what Harper was going to do next. And honestly, I didn't care. And the climax made me think, this is some weird ass shit, as it was completely unfulfilling. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 4.1 out of 10. This is a weird-ass fucking movie, leaving me asking what the fuck for the last 30 minutes of the movie, as it was very unfulfilling and very fucking random. The acting is fine, but honestly, I don't like the main character Harper, as she feels guilty for her husband's death when she doesn't show it well enough. And Jeffrey comes off creepy anyways, and the score at times was very distracting. There were times the movie got predictable based on the trailer, and there were times it got very awkward, and the ending with all the birth giving was repetitive, as it was annoying the shit out of me at the end of the day. And I thought, this is some weird ass shit. It was unfulfilling. This is the weirdest fucking movie I've ever seen in my whole goddamn life. Fuck this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and until we ever get Alex Garland's next project, let's not get weird anymore now.